No one noticed the gun at first. People never do. They were too busy arguing over fruit prices, checking phones, living ordinary lives. And that's why, when the first scream cut through the air, it felt unreal, like a sound from a movie playing too loud in the wrong place. The young nurse didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She didn't even look at her own life before stepping in front of someone else's death. 1 second changed everything. And the next day, something happened outside her hospital that no one there would ever forget. Stay with this story, because what those 12 Marines did wasn't about revenge. It was about honor. Emma Carter was 26 years old, 3 months into her first full-time nursing job, and already exhausted in a way school had never prepared her for. She had just finished a 12-hour shift at St. Mary's Hospital. The kind of shift where you don't remember sitting down, only standing up again. All she wanted was to buy groceries, go home, and sleep without dreaming of beeping monitors. She still wore her light blue nurse uniform, her badge clipped slightly crooked, because she'd rushed out of the locker room. The stethoscope around her neck felt heavier at the end of long days, like it carried the weight of every patient she'd touched. The outdoor market near the hospital was busy, loud, alive. Vendors shouted. Children laughed. A man argued over change. Life moved forward, unaware that it was about to fracture. Emma noticed the stranger because he looked lost. He was older, mid-40s maybe, with tired eyes and hands that shook as he held a small paper bag. He wasn't dressed like the others. Not poor, not rich. Just broken in a quiet way. He kept glancing over his shoulder, like he was waiting for something bad to catch up with him. Emma had learned to recognize that look. Fear hides differently in different people. She took 2 steps toward him, instinct kicking in before thought. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked. That's when it happened. A shout. A sudden movement. The sound of metal sliding. The gun appeared behind her before her mind could process it. The man with the weapon was young, frantic, eyes wild with desperation. He wasn't aiming at Emma. He was aiming at the stranger. The shaking man who now stood frozen, trapped by terror. Time slowed in a way Emma would later struggle to explain. She saw the gun lift. She saw the stranger flinch. She felt something older than fear rise inside her. Duty. Not hospital duty. Not job training. Something deeper. Something human. Emma stepped forward. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She moved. The shot rang out like thunder cracking the sky open. Pain exploded across her face. Hot, blinding, unforgiving. The force knocked her backward. She hit the ground hard, groceries scattering, the world spinning into noise and chaos. People screamed. Someone dropped to their knees. The gunman ran. The stranger stared down at her, blood on her cheek, eyes already losing focus. "Why?" he whispered, voice breaking. "Why would you do that?" Emma tried to speak. Blood filled her mouth, her vision blurred. But she smiled, because even then, on the cold ground, bleeding for someone whose name she didn't know, she knew the answer. Because someone had to. Sirens arrived. Hands pressed against her wound. Voices shouted numbers and instructions. She drifted in and out, catching fragments of sound like broken glass. Operating room. Blood loss. Critical. Before darkness took her completely, Emma felt someone gripping her hand. The stranger. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry." She didn't hear him. She was already falling. Emma survived the night, but barely. The bullet had missed her brain by inches. Surgeons worked for hours, hands steady, hearts pounding. When they finally stepped back, exhausted, they knew she'd live. What they didn't know was what her choice would set in motion. The stranger's name was Daniel Reyes. He hadn't told anyone who he was in the market. He hadn't wanted to be recognized. But after watching a young woman nearly die for him, hiding no longer mattered. Daniel Reyes was a retired Marine Staff Sergeant. Years earlier, he'd testified against a criminal network that had cost several Marines their lives. Witness protection had failed him. The threat had followed him quietly, patiently. And Emma Carter had stepped into its path. Daniel sat outside the ICU all night, hands clasped, guilt crushing him harder than any battlefield memory. He watched nurses walk past, people just like Emma, doing their jobs without knowing what she had done. At dawn, he made a call. He didn't ask for help. He didn't ask for revenge. He simply told the truth. "She took a bullet meant for me," he said. "She didn't know who I was. She just stepped in." The line went quiet. Then the response came, steady and firm. "We'll be there." The next morning, hospital staff noticed something unusual. At first, it was one man standing near the entrance. Tall, straight posture, civilian clothes but unmistakable bearing. Then another arrived. Then another. By noon there were 12. 12 men stood outside St. Mary's Hospital in perfect silence. They didn't block the entrance. They didn't speak to reporters. They didn't demand attention. They just stood. People passing by felt it immediately. Something heavy, something respectful. Nurses whispered. Patients asked questions. A security guard finally approached one of them. "Sir, is there a problem?" The Marine shook his head. "No, sir. We're here for a reason." A word spread quickly. These weren't just Marines. They were brothers. Each one had served with Daniel. Each one understood what it meant to owe your life to someone else. And when they heard about Emma, this young nurse who had done in a split second what they had trained years to do, they came without hesitation. Inside the hospital, Emma woke slowly. Her face ached. Her head felt wrapped in fire. Machines hummed softly around her. A nurse leaned over, eyes shining. "You're awake," she whispered. Emma swallowed painfully. Did he make it?" The nurse nodded. "Yes. Thanks to you." Emma closed her eyes, relief washing over her. Later, Daniel was allowed in. He stood beside her bed, strong hands trembling. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. Emma smiled weakly. "You're alive. That's enough." When he told her about the Marines, she didn't understand at first. 12 Marines, she murmured. Daniel nodded. "They're standing outside. They said heroes shouldn't wake up alone." Tears slipped down Emma's temples. She hadn't thought of herself as brave. She still didn't. She had just acted. But outside, 12 men stood in silence, honoring a courage that couldn't be trained, commanded, or forced. As the sun set, one by one, hospital staff stepped outside and stood with them. No salutes, no speeches, just respect. Emma would carry the scar on her face forever. But she would also carry something else. The knowledge that one selfless moment can ripple farther than we'll ever see. That courage doesn't wear uniforms. But sometimes, uniforms recognize it. And that when you choose to protect a stranger, you might just remind the world what humanity still looks like. Final message. You never know who's watching. You never know who you'll save. And sometimes, the bravest thing you'll ever do happens in a single step forward.